Hello there, Retro PC Durham. Chris here. This is my wife's Generation 1 L13 Yoga, and we have a problem. The hinge has there's some problems here with opening and closing it. Now, since this is a yoga laptop, you need to be able to open it very easily all the time. This actually broke quite a while ago, and I've been kind of avoiding having to fix it, but it's gotten to the point now where it needs to be worked. So the hinge is fine, but this part here belongs on the back plate of the back of the LCD cover, and you can see here that whatever adhesive was used by Lenovo has let, and it's where the rest of this frame part here is connected to has broken as well. So I'm less concerned with this break here, right? And more concerned just making sure that it gets properly adhered back down into this part here so everything is solid. The screw holes still work fine. The hinge is fine. So this is actually should be I'm hoping a pretty easy fix to get back up and running. So what I'm going to try here is I'm going to use some JB Weld, and I shouldn't need a lot because I only need to put a very thin layer along, basically where I see the adhesive was applied to the back cover here, to apply that to this as well, and then place it down and let this basically sit and cure for a day. And then that should have a nice, strong, firm fit, because this is metallic, something. And this is obviously some kind of metal as well. So it should do, I know these are, there's some coatings on these, but it should be able to bond these two very well together. So that's basically what I'm going to do here. And we're going to do kind of a time lapse where I'm going to, I'll do the application, and then we'll skip, a few days later or something like that, and show how firm it is and put it back together. Yeah, so we'll start off. I guess I'll get everything set up here and we'll mix together the JB Weld and get that going. Okay, so yeah, I've got a nice flat piece of paper here. I've got my JB Weld. I've got a Q-tip, which we're gonna clip the end off of. And I'm just gonna use this part here as an applicator. And then we're gonna put our JB Weld on to our page and mix it together. So you want equal parts of both your hardener and your steel, or whatever it's called. And then you mix them together. I've seen some people do this where they'll use like a desk scale. So when they put it out on this, they get an equal amount of each from a mass perspective. You don't need to do that. I'm not doing it here, but it isn't a terrible idea if you want to be exact and make sure you've got the right amount of hardener and the right amount of steel in place. But then we mix it together. And we don't need a heck of a lot because this is going to be applied to a pretty thin layer in a pretty small space. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, like you don't want to get into doing this kind of epoxy stuff, and you're not comfortable with it, you don't need to. You can buy this whole replacement back panel without the circuitry and stuff, or without the ribbon here from the Wi-Fi antenna. You can buy this back piece, which includes the assembly part here, for $55 US off of the Lenovo Parts website. So for me in Canada, it would cost me about $100 Canadian with shipping and everything included as well. And that would just get me this whole part. And I thought about doing that. And then I thought, you know what? I can probably do this myself. I mean, I'm not super smart, but I sometimes am capable of being mildly handy. So once we've got this all mixed up, you don't have to go immediately apply it and go. Like it takes some time for this to, for the chemical reaction between these two to start going, and then for them to harden. So it's usually about 15 minutes before this starts to set, and then you have to leave it for quite some time, like up to 24 hours for it to really set and harden. So this will, as I said, this will be like a time lapse. Once I get this set in place, I'm just going to leave this on the workbench for a day and come back to it tomorrow to make sure it's all firm and in place before reassembling. So yeah, my wife's going to be out of a laptop for a day, but once it's been fixed, this should be, pretty permanent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this onto the backing. What do I want to do here? I feel like I want to apply it to this, because I want to make sure that I don't overlap over top of the screw hole areas. So that's what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to try and apply this around the screw holes, because usually when you've got something like a broken hinge, it's usually around screw holes. So you're going to fill in those areas anyway and just not use the screws anymore. But in this case, that's not the problem. Those screw holes still work fine. The threads are still fine. I want to reuse those. I just want to get the part around it where it's no longer secured between these two parts. So want to be very ginger here and deliberate in terms of how we apply this all around these areas without going into the holes. So we just go around them all. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to hold this end here, and I'm not going to apply, or maybe I will apply. I'm not going to apply on the very tip end where I'm holding this with my finger. I'm going to apply that part on the actual surface here, so I don't have to worry about getting, there's a little hair or something stuck there. So I don't have to worry about getting that on my finger, trying to apply it. So I'm going to apply this part here so that it gets its bit, right? And that's it. And then what we're going to do is we're now going to slide this into place and apply a little bit of pressure to make sure that's nice and firm. And yeah, I think that should be good. Maybe what I'll do is I'm going to take, say, this hard drive here, and is that going to be enough? That might not be enough pressure there. All right, so that should be good. I'm worried about, there's a little spot there that went into the screw hole there that I'm kind of worried about. Hopefully that's not going to cause problems for me later with trying to screw that one piece in. But we'll see how that goes. I wonder if I've got a really light screw or something that I can kind of put in there and then remove to kind of pull some of that out. Oh, it's not going to work. I need something thinner than that, because I am worried about that going down and leaving a mark that's not going to be good. Yeah, see that? It did leave some there. Let me grab some paper towel here so I can wipe this off. I'm just going to go over it one or two times just to make sure that all the epoxy has been removed from this screw hole area, and that way we don't have to worry about that causing a problem. Okay. All right, I think that should be good. So we'll leave that out. Yeah. So now we're just going to leave this for a day, basically, and then we'll make sure that it's working okay, and we'll put it back together.
The next morning.
Okay, so it's been less than a day, but almost 24 hours now. So we've had it sit and set, and yeah, our JB Weld seems to have taken really nicely. So now the next step we're going to do is get it put back together, and hopefully the hinge is going to be able to hold. So pretty simple to do. It's just basically getting this back to where it was. So getting these hinges back aligned with the slots that they have on the board here, like that. And then the next step will be to get the screen put over. So let's get that going now here. I can align this, I guess, a little bit better to show what we're doing. Okay. I always struggle with when putting like hinges like these back onto any computer backing. Whenever you have these hinges like this where they're separated from each other, it it always feels weird to me, like, to get them aligned properly, if that makes sense to you. Whereas when you've got hinges that are built into the screen first, and then they install into the and then they install, like, slot down into the computer instead. That always seems to be an easier thing to do. Because the hinges, I guess, I don't know. I guess they're easier to align. But this is going to be okay. I can already feel that they're kind of syncing up. But between the 6 screws, just kind of alternate which ones you put in. Don't tighten them all the way. I'm only putting them like 3, 4 turns out of the like 7 or 8 that you're going to use to tighten, just to make sure you've got everything aligned properly in here. And this was the one screw that I was worried that the JB Weld got into the thread, but it seems to be tightening just fine. And you want to, as usual with any computer screws, you don't have to like do like the crazy over tightening thing. These all had pre-applied thread locker on them, and thread locker, lasts a pretty long time, but you want to go snug, right? But not too many overturns. The thread locker should keep you good. Because these are hinges, you do want to make sure you're nice and secure. But so that seems pretty nice, pretty tight, as far as that goes. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll flip the screen over, and again, to put the screen on, you've got clips. It's going to be different for any laptop, but you've got clips on the top here and on the sides that we kind of have to align into the frame and then snap down into place, and then we can screw our stuff in here afterwards. So just got to make sure that we're pushed up into them and then kind of snapped into place. As you can see here, there's like, gotta kind of get it to go, but seems pretty simple. And now I'll get my screws in for this. Again, these little tiny screws here are going to hold the bottom of the frame in, so I guess the idea is that as long as you've got these like hooked in properly in the outside frames, that they like won't swing out from the bottom as long as the screws are in properly. So we'll get that in. That screw kind of missed the hole. Okay, we'll get that one, and then we'll get this one. I missed the hole again. Oh my goodness. I keep this little tiny screw keeps coming off the end of the screwdriver before it gets into the slot. There we go. Okay. So push that down into place, and all right, that all should be ready now. So we're feeling pretty firm. All right, so I'm just going to get this on. And well, get that on, and I got that screwed in, and we'll be all complete, and that'll be the whole thing. I've got my little tabs, and we're done. So yeah, that's it. That's the repair. It all seems to be working fine now, nice and crisp, and don't need to use tape to hold it on anymore. And as I said, if I screwed this up and it doesn't work, I can always order that part to replace on this system for about $100 Canadian, and just replace the one that's broken completely with a new frame. So it's always nice it's not super cheap, I know, to replace the parts, but the fact that the parts are actually available is actually super helpful. And not a lot of companies actually do that for people to be able to publicly be able to just buy parts as they need them. So I hope you enjoyed this little look here. If you had a similar problem, you can use something like JB Weld to do these kinds of repairs, and it has a pretty good hold and can save you having to spend some extra money on replacement parts. Or if you can't find replacement parts for your particular computer, your particular laptop, that this is something that you can try as well. And yeah, so hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you're staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.